Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Great. So, first and foremost, I can see there's a lot of people who are not from this country, and I'd like to give you a very warm welcome to the country of Kenya, the only country in the whole world with 7 ecological zones. And to Nairobi City, the only capital city in the whole world that has a national park, but beyond that, the only capital in the whole world that has the highest, largest number of migratory birds passing through at any time in the year. So now you know why the Affordable Housing Summit is in Nairobi and not in Cape Town or Lagos. So I do hope that visitors who, it's your first time in Kenya and in Nairobi, if you can't go and see the various 7 ecological zones, you will find time to go to the national park. And interesting, another fact is this, Kenya is one of the only countries in the whole world where every 50 kilometers that you travel, the vegetation changes. So you're really in a great place, and thank you for being here. So ladies and gentlemen, as you heard, I am a member of the Distributed Ledgers and Artificial Intelligence Task Force, which was put together to look at 2 emerging technologies, that is distributed ledgers, which is blockchain, and artificial intelligence, to help inform the Kenya government on its Big 4 agenda. The Big 4 agenda is manufacturing, housing, affordable healthcare. And one of the things that I know many of you this morning are probably expecting me to talk about emerging technologies in distributed ledgers and artificial intelligence and how that affects affordable housing, but I'm actually going to go on a totally different route, because there's very many great emerging technologies within this sector which are housed here locally, and I'd like to bring those to the fore to inform this discussion this morning. So just a bit of a background. Over 40% of our population in this country lives in urban areas, and we expect this to rise to about 50% by the year 2030. Inadequate housing, high incidences of poverty, and high unemployment rates are the major challenges arising from this high rate of urbanization. The government has set an ambitious agenda to have over 500,000 houses by 2021 for a rising population. And one of the most interesting things about this country is that our median age of our population is actually 19.1 years old. So for a lot of the developers in this room, in this country, I think you really need to rethink your agenda and your plans in terms of housing and what it is that you're putting up, because those are actually your clients, your customers, and your consumers for your housing. So Article 43 of our Constitution, Section 1, Section B, stipulates that every person has a right to accessible and adequate housing and to reasonable standards of sanitation. I want to define what I consider to be affordable housing. First and foremost, it has to be good quality inputs. It must be adequate living spaces. There must be improved living standards. And most importantly, after the houses have been built and people are living in them, they must be able to be affordable in terms of maintenance and in terms of use. And finally, of course, enhanced environmental sustainability. So, I want us to go on a journey. Fasten your seatbelts, and we're going to go to the eastern part of Kenya, a place called Makueni County, which is east of Nairobi. And I want to take you to a place called Lukenya University. So Lukenya University is located in Makueni County, And they have a very interesting project that they've been doing. So currently, they have more than 400 students at the university, and they've embraced the first emerging technology that I want to talk about, which is around green building. So let me just go into the problem history of the place. So one of the biggest problems that Makueni County faces, and especially Lukenya University, is that there is no quarry in Kibwezi. And then also there's poor road infrastructure into the area, which was also one of the biggest challenges as they were planning and thinking about how to build up their campus. There's literally no roads when the construction of the institution began. So other than poor roads and a lack of a quarry, the other main challenge was that the area did not have any artisans. So for the construction of the institution to happen, workers had to be imported from other regions into Kibwezi. So what did they do? Interesting, listen to this. So they came up with a design and a plan that totally embraced the use of soil blocks. So stones were the initial materials that were meant for constructions, but that was going to pose a number of problems in terms of transport, in terms of artisans, and present a number of challenges. So to compare to other materials that can be used for construction, the one thing that stood out for them was that there was a lot of soil around them. So soil blocks ended up being chosen, and they did an extensive study on the other materials. And they found that out of all the other materials, considering the factors, and especially when it comes to thermal properties and cost, soil was the best way to go. So the institution acquired a hydroform machine. Interestingly enough, a hydroform machine is actually from South Africa, and the machine can make up to 1,000 blocks a day. So Lukenya University chose to construct its building using the hydroform interlocking blocks, a technology that is less costly than the traditional building materials. In a bid to minimize its construction cost, Lukenya chose the hydroform because they are interlocking blocks that do not use any mortar. So there are a lot of countries that have embraced hydro blocks for construction purposes, for the fact that it's a low-cost construction process, and it's estimated that 30% of a structure that you put up using hydro blocks with interlocking blocks is done without any mortar at all being used. So just a little bit to describe the shape and the format of what a hydroform block looks like. It's 110 meters in height by 220 meters wide, and lengthwise it's between 220 millimeters to 230 millimeters long. So the use of the mortarless load-bearing interlocking block building system integrates the production of construction elements with building construction at the site that resulted in cheaper building costs due to faster completion time, using the less skilled workers that were already resident around, and less wastage on production, as all this was done on site, employing the locals and using local labor. The next technology I want to speak about is also from another local firm that is based here locally, and they are called Strauss Energy Solutions. So just a bit of background before I go into what they do. So businesses and households are heavily dependent on safe and continuous energy at reasonable prices. When energy supplies fails, it disrupts our everyday life. I think our Nigerian brothers and sisters probably know very well the challenge of having reliable energy coming from where they sit. Kenya needs energy, the energy industry, to contribute to its economy, as well as to its environment and climate conservation. It is in this context that companies directly involved in the energy supply value chain and the stakeholders are required to make a variety of complex decisions. So just a bit of context from an African perspective, Africa alone as a continent spends about 17 billion every year on fuel-based lighting sources such as kerosene. And then a large number of the average household income uses fuel-based lighting, which has severe consequences on the environment because of its toxic fuels and ultimately on the health of people. So Strauss Energy Solutions has managed to look at and solve 3 problems, and I'll mention them. And these problems are now making housing and living and livelihoods more affordable. So the first energy is the energy gap in Africa. The second is energy that is characterized by load shedding and blackouts. And the final one is the issue of costs. So like I'd mentioned before, Strauss Energy is a local firm, and it was established in 2007. It's an enterprise of innovators in the field of engineering, energy, and construction. And what they've done is that they have involved a roofing tile that has solar panels incorporated within them. So they're able to provide renewable and cost-effective energy through what is known as BIPV technology, which is a revolutionary solar-powered roofing tile design made in Kenya. The tiles are approved by our Kenya Bureau of Standards, and this is also to fully realize the Envision's Vision 2030 agenda that the government has on the part of energy efficiency, both for the public and the private sector. Although the energy deficiency is substantial, Strauss Energy Solution is, for one, it is clean, it's efficient, and abundant as the sun that shines throughout the year in Kenya. The solution is in line with the decarbonization of energy, and rightly so, since public acceptance of fossil fuel has declined. So they have embedded the solar panels into roofing tiles, and the solar tiles work in such a way that they can produce power that can completely sustain a modern household without the need for secondary power. In a country, and also in a continent, where some of us get up to 10 months of sunshine, Strauss designs building materials that are capable of capturing the sun's ray and converting them into solar energy. The solar tiles work in such a way that they can not only just produce and completely sustain a modern household, but they can also, without a need for secondary power source, but they can also produce extra power that can be turned back into the grid. This firm has global recognition. And just to mention that back in 2016 in Silicon Valley, the Global Entrepreneurship Summit gave them a cash award for the People's Choice category for the global innovation that they had made through the science and technology competition. Finally, I want to talk about a very interesting innovation that's happening in South Africa, which is 3D printing houses. So somewhere in Latin America, a small community of 50 farmers and weavers will be getting new 3D printed homes. They will be built, 50 houses will be built in a 24-hour period by a San Francisco design firm called Fuse Project, which is working in conjunction with a housing nonprofit news story and icon construction company. One of the great things about these housing units is the look and feel. You can shape the walls to have different functionalities. You can create shower stalls that don't have to have sharp corners. The typical homeowner that is being targeted for the occupation of these houses are families living on less than $200 a month. As south to south countries and nations sitting here today, I think that a lot of the solutions of what it is that is affordable housing are already with us. We do not actually have to look to the West for some of these solutions, and there's loads of things that are happening with us and amongst us. As a country and as a government, I probably want to bring this to light to a lot of the developers who are here, and I want to encourage you to work with some of the local vocational training centers which are located all over this country that have a lot of very exciting projects that they're working on. For those of you who are still going to be here for the next couple of days, I would encourage you to visit a place which is not too far from here in an industrial area called the Gearbox, where there's a lot of local fabrications that are being done into inputs into making components that go into housing affordable. The government also has already put up 146 community innovation hubs, and the whole idea about the community innovations hubs, which are located in each and every single constituency in this country, is to have a center where local innovations and products can be locally manufactured. 3D technology printing can and is already transforming the way that we are able to come up with components that inform or go into some of the constructions that we are doing. And finally, just as I wrap up, beyond what may seem to be a hopeless environment, I think the fact that there is such a huge demand for housing in this continent also declares there's such a huge business opportunity for all of you who are sitting in this room. But then again, we have to rethink what it is and how it is that we're approaching the traditional components of what makes up a house, of what it is that is informing our design, what it is that is informing our building. And like I've just mentioned, the median age in this country is 19.1 years old. And with the different mindset of the younger population, it won't be too long before the housing sector already gets disrupted the way the transport sector got disrupted. For lack of another way of putting it, the Uberization within the housing sector is upon us, and it is here. And it will not necessarily come from what a lot of you may have thought I was going to speak about this morning, about blockchain and artificial intelligence and how IoT can be used within housing, but it actually comes from a lot of the local innovators who are already working within and amongst us. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and have a great discussion this day.